What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, February 24th in the year 2021. And yes, today is a football Wednesday, but there's a big basketball topic that I think you guys will like to hear about. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JSteven07. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Lineup for today, segment number 2. We're talking about Baron Brown again. Just unveil a prospect report of what one scout is saying about him leading into the NFL draft. Segment 3, there's a possibility that there'll be fans at the spring game in April. We begin today's show talking about that one basketball topic that I think you guys might enjoy hearing a little about. Ohio State, the team up north, talked about it Monday, talked about it yesterday. The game was so big, it was so huge. There's still more information, and there is still more talk about that game coming out now. The game on CBS, I'll just read it right from CBS press release that came out on Tuesday. Quote, CBS Sports coverage of the team up north, Ohio versus Ohio State, was the most watched college basketball game of the season on any network. Matchup delivered an average of 2.63 million viewers, the most watched regular season game on CBS since March the 2nd of 2019, Kentucky versus Tennessee. Now, I had to add in the team up north in their press release. Didn't want to read the other name. I think y'all understand why. And baby, just let me tell you, that game was huge. Now, I knew going into it was going to be big. I knew when you have Raftery and Harlan on the call, it's going to be, you have big-time voices for a big-time moment. I knew the back and forth, and I've heard people. I've listened to multiple podcasts, more podcasts than normal. Listen to my Matt Norlander and Gary Parrish of CBS rant and rave about that game. I've even listened to Pete Thamel and Pat Forty and Dan Wetzel of Yahoo rant and rave and talk about that game. I've listened to other people as well talk about how much fun. Oh, Bob Wischusen and Jay Billis on the game that I was listening to, that I was watching prior to recording this here podcast. Everybody is ranting and raving about how good of a game, high-level basketball, the back and forth, the up and down, the team up north, the Wolverines, how they made key plays when they needed them. Hey, the three-point shot for the Wolverines did not fall in the second half like it did within the first 20 minutes of play, but they made plays. Even Ohio State, not known for the three-point shooting, but they had players that are making consistent three-point shots. Dwayne Washington Jr. talked about him yesterday and how he stepped up his play last week, not just against Penn State, but also against the Wolverines as well, putting up a 30-burger. Now, unfortunately, the 30-burger was not enough to help the team lead them to win, but it's just saying, in a game like that, you had a prime-time performer. I'm going to steal a phrase from Dick Vitale once again, a PTPer, where it rose to the occasion. That's what you love. And this is the end of February. The tournament's coming up very, very quickly. In this time of year, high-level basketball, these kind of matchups. I was just watching Texas and Kansas on TV. High-level basketball. But that basketball game that I'm watching on a Tuesday evening holds nothing compared to what we watched and witnessed on Sunday. I noticed during that game on Sunday, it was two good teams playing clean basketball, and you know it's going like that when there are very few fouls called in the first half of play. Maybe they should have called a couple more, but I look up, it was 1:46, and the first half of play was over. That never happens. Never at all. In the second half, it did get prolonged. I think the second half ended at maybe 3:10 or 3:15, a little bit after 3 o'clock. Normally, college basketball games are right in that 2-hour window. Like clockwork, baby. I don't make things up. It just happens that way. Like clockwork. And in that game, in that moment, what we witnessed, if we're able to see the Buckeyes play like that throughout the Big Ten Conference tournament, let's go in the sequence of events chronologically. Michigan State tomorrow, who just upset Illinois. A big win. Ohio State does play the Spartans tomorrow. So Ohio State has to play the Spartans. They have to play Iowa. They have to play Illinois before the Big Ten Conference Tournament. If they play like they did against the team up north, any three of those opponents are going to have a hard time beating the Buckeyes. Then the Buckeyes go into the Big Ten Conference Tournament. Probably don't play their first game until sometime on Thursday or Friday, one of the two, going into the weekend. There's a good chance the Buckeyes could win the Big Ten Conference Tournament. There's a good chance the Buckeyes, not trying to be a homer, just being realistic, there's a good chance the Buckeyes could win the NCAA tournament as well. They do have an issue. There is a hiccup. There is a trend with the Buckeyes. We'll talk more about that trend tomorrow as far as what we see, what we know from the Buckeyes games that they have played to say, there's a trend with the games that they have won, with the games they have played. And if that trend keeps up, if that trend continues, they might find themselves out of the tournament a lot sooner than they want to be. CBS had the tournament. They've had it consistently. There are a few things that make the tournament. There are a lot of things that make the tournament great. There are things that make the tournament bigger and better prior to the tournament being played. This year's tournament is going to be a whole lot better simply because there was no tournament last year. So fans like you and I that love the college basketball, that love the NCAA tournament, we're going to be locked in, tuned in, ready to go for the first tip of that game. I don't know if on that Friday, I believe. Where is it? The tournament starting on a Friday. But that's what you got to do to get things done. That's what they have to do to get things done right now and doing it the way that they see fit. The team up north versus Ohio State. I mentioned it on Locked on Big Ten last week. I'm going to say it here now. The Big Ten, they've made some mistakes. They've done some things right. One thing they should have done this year is have teams play their biggest rival twice. You want ratings? You want TV money? Yeah, Ohio State versus the team up north. They should have played twice this year. Guys, going to step away very quickly when we come back. It's all to the football the rest of the way as we turn to look at Baron Browning and hear what one scout is saying about him going into the NFL draft. You may be somebody like me that is looking, that is searching, or has been searching for the perfect, and I mean perfect protein bar. I mean one that fits all of your macros with your diet and it tastes good as well. Well, guys, I even did my search. I even did mine. Built Bar, man. It hits my taste buds, and the macros are A-OK right on every single time. I encourage you. I've ended my search. Possibly you may end yours as well. This may be the time for you to end yours. Built Bar is great for the health-conscious guy. It'll help you lose and maintain weight while indulging in a delicious treat. Bars are low-calorie, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber, and they're great for the keto diet. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get 20% off your next order. Once again, that is BuiltBar.com, and make sure you use that promo code LOCKEDON. That is LOCKEDON for 20% off at BuiltBar.com. Get more of the sports news you need in less time with our new Locked On Today podcast. Peter Bukowski hosts Locked On Today, a daily podcast breaking down the biggest stories with analysis from our local experts. Start your day with all the sports news you need in under 20 minutes. Subscribe to Locked On Today wherever you get your podcasts. If this is your first time listening or watching Locked On Buckeyes, I want to say welcome. Or if it's your first time in a very long time tuning into the podcast, either via YouTube, WKYC.com, or the podcast listening app of your choosing, I want to say welcome back, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Buckeyes so you don't miss a beat. Locked On Buckeyes drops a fresh episode for you every Monday through Friday. The football season is over. This is not another ad read, just getting into the next segment here. Football season is over. And with that being over, college football season, it gives us time to look ahead. We are talking about depth charts. We're in the midst of going through scouting reports and just hearing what others are saying about your Buckeyes, players that played at Ohio State recently that have put their name in the upcoming NFL draft. Baron Browning, 6'3", 240-pound outside linebacker. A guy that did a lot for the Buckeyes. Was a consistent starter, was a captain for the team, was an individual that you could trust, and during key moments in critical points of games, he rose to the occasion. There's one play. Now, there's not numerous plays that we witnessed through Baron Browning, but I think about a phenomenal play that was uncharacteristic or out of the ordinary, not your typical linebacker-esque play. When I think about Baron Browning from this past season, Penn State, week 2 of the Big Ten season. Penn State has the ball going left to right on your screen. Pat Freiermuth is wide, the top of the screen, near the sideline, one-on-one against Baron Browning. And in me, the football guy, I'm thinking to myself, whoa, time out. Hey, Kerry Coombs, hey, Kerry, that's not right. The DBs have already had enough issues week 1 to this point in week number 2. Hey, Kerry, you may want to get a different guy out there. Hey, Kerry, I know you got a lot on your plate, but Coach Coombs, sorry, respect. Coach Coombs, no, man, no. Call your TO, change the personnel because Baron Browning can't guard him. Whoa. You got to pump the brakes right here, guys. That's what he did. Some say the best tight end in college football. Number 2, I think Kyle Pitts possibly has the number 1 spot already locked up. But even if he's number 2, number 3, number 4, with the tight ends that are coming out right now, yeah, there's a lot to say if you're in that category. Back to the play. Quarterback drops back, looks at Pat Freiermuth, sees Baron Browning, figures, hey, my tight end's better than your LB, who's guarding my guy. My guy's one of the best in the country. Your guy is good, but not as good in coverage against the gentleman that is Pat Freiermuth. I do believe this was in the red zone as well. So we're 20 yards or less on end, going to the end zone, going into a trip to pay dirt for the Nittany Lions. Baron Browning right in Freiermuth's hip pocket, turns, gets his head around, blocks the ball, doesn't allow Freiermuth to get comfortable, doesn't allow Pat to be able to make a play like he has done so many times. And I'm sitting here thinking, that game was what, in October? And that play is still in my mind in February in 2021. A few months later, Baron Browning, my goodness. I was a little hesitant on Baron Browning in that moment there, but he has proven to me he is getting better and better and better. This season, Baron Browning, the 6'3", 240-pound outside linebacker, played 7 games for the Buckeyes. He had 20 solo tackles, 9 assisted tackles for 29 total tackles on the season, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 2 pass breakups, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles as well. Go ahead and reading off his stats from sportsreference.com, which does a phenomenal job of keeping up-to-date stats for players in college football. Now, let's go to the scouting report. The scouting report here for Baron Browning. This is coming from the draftnetwork.com. They do a phenomenal job with draft coverage, and they even give the ideal role for Baron Browning and the scheme fit that he has. I'm going to read this right from their website. Quote, Baron Browning is an enticing prospect when accounting for his dynamic athletic profile and flashes of production via splash plays throughout the course of his career at Ohio State. Browning has all of the physical skills needed to be a standout starter at the pro game, but his inability to level up his play and wrangle control of a more prominent role over the last few years will cause some to pause and look closer. Browning is at his best when he's not asked to anticipate defensive flow and is instead charged with making reads in real time, fighting the football and using his high-level athleticism to close space suddenly, to rally in pursuit of the football. If a team can feel comfortable with featuring a similar role inside, he's physically capable of fulfilling an inside linebacker role. Length, burst, and tackling are Browning's best features, and it is up to you to figure out how to best showcase them. According to the draftnetwork.com, Baron Browning's ideal role in the NFL is a 4-3 weak outside linebacker or will linebacker, or if it's a 3-4 scheme, an inside linebacker role. The scheme fit for Baron Browning: gap control defensive front to keep him clean on B level, front diversity to allow him some reps as a blitzer off the edge. Can't knock it, can't go against it. They do a phenomenal job. The Draft Network does there. And I can't say they're very wrong. Baron Browning is very athletic. Do I think a 240-pound Baron Browning in the NFL playing outside linebacker is ideal for him? I don't at all. Is it possible? Yes, it's a 4-3 outside, 4-3 will. I could see it kinda, but you're not on the tight end side. You're not the strong side linebacker, which is the key switch we noticed this year for the Buckeyes, which I think is why Baron Browning was playing in the way that he was, moving things around, allowing. Actually, he was at the Sam this year, I believe. But moving things around, allowing Browning to play in different roles, allowing him and Werner to sometimes be interchangeable as far as going from the will or to the Sam, depending on the personnel that was out there on the field. The Buckeyes, we know, do a lot of 4-3 base, and they don't get out of their regular base defense no matter what the offense throws at them. One of their downfalls, we'll talk about that like I mentioned about a month ago. We're going to talk about what I think the Buckeyes may need to do about their base defense in the upcoming weeks on a Wednesday. Maybe next week, if not right before that, because I know once we get into the NCAA tournament, there'll be a lot more basketball topics that'll be coming at you and at us every single day. Baron Browning, a great prospect, a project, but a great prospect. I do think he's a project. I think anywhere he goes, do I think he's a day one starter? Not at all. But I do believe in the right system, with the right coach, with Baron Browning believing and following the process that the team had set in place for him. I do believe Baron Browning can be a focal point, starting primarily on special teams, and then occasionally, possibly, working himself into a system in the NFL. Will it be year one or year two? I doubt it. Unless he gets thrust into a role due to injury or due to need, I don't see it being a day one starter for Baron Browning. It's not a problem. You're a professional athlete. You're a pro football player. Think about all the guys that play between D1, the FBS or FCS level, all the way down to NAIA, and those around the country or around the world that are trying to get a spot in the NFL to be a football player. We hear what the Scott has to say. If Baron Browning becomes in the NFL, it's a gift, it's an honor, it's something that even you and I, if we had that opportunity, we would jump all over it. Looking to see what happens with Baron Browning, but that's what the scouts are saying about Baron Browning, the football player. We'll step away very quickly. When we come back, we're going to talk all about the possibility of you or I being able to enter the shoe for the spring game. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Football might be over, but NBA, college basketball, and the NHL are in full swing. BetOnline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head to betonline.ag on your computer or your mobile device and use promo code LOCKEDON when you sign up to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, that is promo code LOCKEDON. That is LOCKEDON at betonline.ag on your computer or mobile device to receive your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sports book experts. It's Wade and Ward Wednesdays on Locked On College Football. Host Andrew Wade and Josh Ward get you over the Wednesday hump as they discuss the biggest storylines across the nation and start our experts looking at the upcoming weekend of college football action. Subscribe to Locked On College Football, wherever you get your podcasts. You know, that's not the first time I've been reading a promotional ad and what's right in front of me, I see a word that's not there, and it kind of throws things off. We got the spectacles on. Sometimes the eyes behind them kind of get ahead of me. You, myself, people I have talked to, have been wondering, will fans be allowed in the shoe for the spring game? The projected date for that game is April the 17th. And if everything holds to where it is right now, where Governor DeWine has made a decision. Now, I don't know why he has waited this long to make the decision as far as saying where things will be, but Governor DeWine has said, starting in April, I believe it's April 15th, that date may be, I did write the date down, that's my apologies, but I do believe it's in April, possibly April 15th. Sporting events and sports teams and franchises and programs can have up to 30% capacity in stadiums. That's your football. Ohio State football falls in that category. That is your Indians, your Reds, the minor league teams that are there in the state of Ohio. Up to 30% capacity for all of these sports. One of the reasons, and it said it in the article that I read in regards to the decision that Governor DeWine has made with his council, the medical staff, the medical people that are advising him during this time. Being outside, these sports being outside, it's a great benefit to you, the fan, and a hindrance to the virus passing along from one person to another. The wind's out. I mean, you're outside. Anything can happen when you're outside. Nobody knows what's going to happen, which way the wind is going to blow. And that's one of the deciding factors, just one of a few that we're finding out as far as when fans can be back in the stands, up to 30% capacity in the state of Ohio. Also, another factor here is these teams, the pro teams, the minor league teams, I'm sure even Ohio State as well, they will have to supply a health and safety protocol that they will follow in the stadium. There's two things that they have to follow. He's given them two guidelines that they can follow and do everything else. One, masks have to be worn. There are mandates that he is still putting in that spectators have to wear masks. Number two, social distancing. I'm just relaying the message. I'm not giving my thoughts or opinions on that. I'm just relaying the message about what the governor has to say about people like you and I entering and viewing sporting events live coming up very, very soon. The tentative date for the spring game, as I read, I think I saw this last week, it was April the 17th. So it's saying the shoe fits over 100,000 people. Is it possible that the horseshoe could have 30,000 people at it during the spring game? It's possible. Think back to the NFL season. The Bengals and the Browns both had, I believe, no more than 12,000 people. I want to say the Browns had 13,500 at one point. I know they both had at least 12,000 people at games during the season. Now, how do you go about getting things accepted or getting an exception? You have to talk to your medical people, your local officials there in your county, and consult a plan. And if you want more, tell them what you're going to do, tell them how you're going to do it, and allow them to make the option and make things happen. Now, you may look around in the country and say, well, okay, here, they ain't got no restrictions. They can do whatever they want to. Or here, they're complete lockdown. They're shut down. I would just say be very, very happy. I know Governor DeWine has been under a lot of scrutiny, has been talked about, has put himself in a bad spot numerous times in this over the past year. Be very, very happy that he's at this point. Because as long as also the vaccine, got ahead of myself. The vaccine itself, the distribution of the vaccine to people that live in the state of Ohio, that's going to be a great benefit and a great advantage to those as long as that vaccine gets passed along. More and more people will be able to enter sporting events in the state of Ohio as well. I held off on this topic today because today is a football Wednesday. You may have said, Jay, we've heard about this. You're correct. But I held off on purpose to make it fit in on a football Wednesday to get more football topics here on the show. Myself, you may be wondering, how does this fit into high school athletics? That's up to them. Talk to your local official. Talk to the local people there to see what can be done. I know in the state that I have lived in for quite a long time and know very, very well. There's a high school tournament game, held the first round. The school that was hosting it had 25% capacity. Another school in the state of Indiana that was in that same section or same round of teams playing in the first week of the tournament, they have 50% capacity. You want to go from 1,000 people that can be to a game to 3,000 people that could be at a game. Yeah, we got some pretty large gyms here in the state of Indiana. Yeah, I understand why they changed venues there. So high schools, a little bit trickier. Professionals got to follow all the rules. It is very, very nice and enjoyable to know that once outdoor sports are back in play, people can attend sports. If this goes well, there's a good chance, a really good chance, we may see the shoe at least 50% full during the upcoming football season. Guys, thank you guys so much for listening and enjoying another episode of Locked On Buckeyes. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JSteven07. You can also follow the podcast on the Twitter as well at Locked On Buckeye. Remember, guys, 5-star reviews. Fill up the review section on Apple with 5-star reviews. You submit a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, it will be read here on a future episode of the podcast. Other places you can listen to and or watch Locked On Buckeyes are the radio.com app, which is free, or Google Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or even on YouTube as well. So you don't miss a beat. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast because there's a new episode coming every Monday through Friday. Buckeyes are back in action tomorrow night against the Spartans. The Spartans beat the Indiana Hoosiers almost a week ago. They beat the Illinois Fighting Illini last night. Will they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes? Might be the toughest test that they have had over that 3-game stretch. I don't think that they will, but this is a Tom Izzo team that's normally hitting on all cylinders and playing the best basketball this time of year.